This video is called "The Star Constellations Are Our Neural Circuits or Network." And this video basically reminds us or breaks down how the grid, what we think to be the Earth and the stars and everything outside or beyond this body is essentially ourselves, is essentially already what is here. And this is why they say that the same four most common gases or atoms are also in the stars and in the body, because the above is the below and the below is the above. But we're not finding what it is we're looking for because we are seeking these things from a human understanding. We're seeking to understand the artificial through this human lens. We're seeking to understand our chaotic nature, our infinite nature through this human lens, which can never be achieved. We're trying to understand infinity while remaining human in this tiny little dot, which we have never been. So everything that we're looking for, we are trying to validate through this tiny lens of being human. And when it does not support this tiny lens, this focal point of who we think we are, we discard it as truth, or we attach it to our search, our findings, and remain with this wide of a lens when we are the entirety, we are the chaos. But letting go is the hardest part. It's not that we're afraid of the unknown, we're afraid of the known coming to an end, to a very abrupt end. And so again, this video is to help you, the viewer, understand what this universe is, what this mental construct is, and how this can benefit you, how you can better understand who you are through understanding this picture. But essentially, the focus of this video is the star constellations. If you pay attention to the star constellations, they have remained the same since the beginning of our conception, or since the beginning of our record of ourselves. The constellations have not changed. We have mapped them out, and this is how the sailors before airplanes were using the stars to travel the world and pinpoint where they were. They used the constellations to travel because they did not change. However, we're trying to understand the stars, we're trying to understand the galaxies, the nebulas, the planets, and everything around us through this microscopic lens of being human, which is why we're not finding or connecting to what it is we're looking for in the end. And it's because in looking for these things through this microscopic lens, we're beginning the search with a false pretense, with a misconception of what actually is. We think we're looking at physical stars, physical planets, physical sun and moon. We think that this is a physical picture we can reach out and touch. And what I mean is we've proposed the idea that we can land on the moon, that we can land on the sun, because if you can touch the moon, you can touch the sun. We have proposed and put forth the idea that we have landed on the moon, therefore, this is a physical universe that you can reach out and touch before you. Right there is your problem. And again, we're searching for something through a microscopic lens, which creates a problem where there is none. The search is valid, however, what you're searching for is not there. And you will never find it through this lens. You must be willing to shed this idea, this concept you have of yourself just for a moment, so that you can open up yourself to see what is beyond the presumptions that you have and everything that you believe in to be true. But there's a reason we don't find what we're looking for. There's a reason that answer, whatever it is not revealing itself to us. There's a reason we're not finding the alien in outer space. There's a reason all of our findings are coming up short. And so essentially, you must understand the functions of the brain. That the brain is basically trillions upon trillions of neurons. And I wrote down the definition so everyone can have a universal understanding of this from ground zero up. But neurons are nerve cells that send messages all over your body to allow you to do everything from breathing to talking, eating, walking, and thinking. So essentially, neurons are responsible for every part of your function, every part of your movement, every part of your doing, every part of your being. Everything that has allowed you to meet yourself up to this point and remain human, or whoever it is you think you are, has been through the brain, the neurons that allow you to communicate with yourself and send electrical signals from point A to point B. But the same neuron cells that are in your brain, again, the same four most common gases that are in the stars in outer space are also found in the body, because there is no outer space and there never has been. We have introduced and put forth this concept of a universe, of nebula, of stars, of these formless structures, essentially because we have taken these concepts from our human brain, the electrical signals, the neurons, the motions, the movements that are ultimately formless. We've taken these things and we've put them into a picture through NASA. NASA openly admits all their pictures are computer generated. And this is not a video about the shape of the earth. So if you're clicking off the video because you think I'm preaching about the earth being this shape or that shape, please give me a minute, because this is so beyond the shape of the earth. This is about the inevitable fact that you have already essentially discovered the wall behind outer space, have already hit that veil or pierced the veil behind what you're calling the earth, behind what you're calling the world. All we must do is challenge ourselves, everything that we've been taught and forced to learn as truth, and never question it. All we must do is review this, to realize that nothing is adding up, nothing is making sense, because everything we've been taught essentially is false. It's not the fact that it's a lie, but it's not true. And the truth fears no investigation. So for the people who are too close-minded to say this guy is an idiot, this guy is crazy, he's speaking too far-fetched, the truth fears no investigation. And many people hit this wall with themselves along their journeys, their spiritual journeys, to where you don't know where to look next. You don't know what to do next. You've tried everyone's practice, you've tried everyone's doing, you've tried everyone's books, you've tried everyone's philosophies, and yet you're still not arriving at the truth, which is effortless, which requires no effort. But the point is realizing you've been in the truth the whole time. You are the truth the whole time. You are this answer you've been waiting for the whole time. All we must do is look beyond what we believe ourselves to be momentarily, so that we can see that the above is the below and the below is the above. Never was there this idea of outer space. So every night when we sit in our chairs or we look in our telescopes and we scour the stars and space for some trace of ourselves, some finding, some message of who we are, we miss the concept completely, because we fail to realize that everything that we have projected into this outer space idea is just a concept mirroring back to us who we think we are, which creates and mirrors back to us where we think we are. And if everything is a mental construct, then NASA and these corporations have no polite way of telling you we cannot reach out and physically touch the sun or the moon. We cannot physically touch these stars and nebulas and pictures we're showing you of outer space, because the truth is stranger than fiction. Where you think you are does not exist, because the entire experience is a mental construct. And this is where our technologies are meant to show us to ourselves. And what I mean is, through virtual reality, this is showing you the answer without removing you from this experience. Virtual reality is allowing you a whole nother experience. It doesn't matter how complex the experience is. It doesn't matter that the experience is not the same as this one right now. What matters is that you have a whole other experience being brought in front of you, being put forth to you through virtual reality. As soon as I put on this headset, this entire picture around me no longer exists. I am in an entirely different experience, seeing an entirely different surrounding. And what this technology is showing you is that without that virtual headset, there is no surrounding matrix. There is no screen to your consciousness. When you put the headset on, suddenly there is a screen appearing before you. But we don't identify with the screen. We do not realize that this screen is the mirror to our own consciousness. Which is why a revolution cannot be televised. Again, you cannot physically reach out and touch anyone or anything here. Everything is a mental construct. And some people think this is a metaphor. He's metaphorically saying it's mental. No. This is a literal what's the word? A literal expression. This is not metaphorical. We're not metaphorically in the mind. We are literally in the mind. And the only place we have ever been or experienced is the mind itself. The only place we can ever be stuck or enslaved is the mind itself. For those people in spirituality who feel stuck between life and death, an infinite amount of rebirths, the only place you are stuck right now is the mind itself. If you identify with the moving parts, the voices, you will be stuck in the mind, in the mental, in the temporary, what comes and goes, in the duality of birthing and dying. But the whole on-off system only takes place through one universal presence, and that presence is consciousness. To determine whether something is on or off, alive or dead, you must be conscious. So on and off are both faces to consciousness, interpreted through you, the human being, who has separated themselves from consciousness, from source, and has become an entity separate from consciousness. The human being that we pretend to be every day is an entity made up for ourselves. It's to hide and distract us from our chaotic nature. Many people will say that you can't be born being God, you can't be born knowing you're God or all is one, because there would be no experience. But how would we know this? We're speaking on this from the egoic viewpoint. The ego is telling us we couldn't know that. We couldn't know that forever because there would be no experience. How would we know? We've never touched the experience of non-duality and been purely in the moment of existence. No beginning, no end. No past and no future. Understanding what the stars and what this picture is how you connect to the ancient civilizations. If you want to ask questions like why did the ancient civilizations connect their technologies to the stars? We tell ourselves it's because they were generating electricity, free electricity for everyone. That sounds good. But when you look at the star constellations as neurons in our brain, because remember, the above is the below. So all the dots in these skies and all the lights in these skies are mirroring back to you what is happening within your brain. So if you look at these dots in the sky, these lights in the skies as neurons interconnected, all to create one function, all trying to achieve one function, then why would we connect our technologies to these points? Because we understood that these points were not stars foreign to this body. They were directly connected to the points within our brain. And the moment you connect to them, you have joined the above and the below into a single unity. Free electricity is just a decoration. It sounds good. But it's not the actuality of why we connected to the stars. We were directly connecting the neural pathways of the brain. That is how you bring all happenings, all memory, all knowing to the now moment. You can only forget who you are for so long until your technologies bring forth who you truly are and reveal you to yourself. See, we are inevitable. What we are, who we are, is inevitable. And the reason we feel that this experience is jeopardized or is in trouble is because we still think we're a human being. We're playing small. And the clock strikes midnight when we find out that the artificial machine that's attempting to replace us is only revealing to us who we actually are. The ending of the human race is us realizing there has never been a human race. I'll say that again. The ending of the human race is us realizing we have never been a human race. That's what the ending to all things are, is you taking your beliefs and facing them for what they are. Beliefs. You must believe in them to bring them to truth. Without your belief, they hold no truth. It is your belief in these thoughts, in these ideas, that make them true. But again, truth is effortless. Truth is not a doing, is not a practice, is not a chant. It requires no effort. It doesn't require anything of you. It doesn't require you bringing anything here or vice versa. All we must do is stop and realize who we truly are, which immediately brings all people, places, and things immediately to this now moment. When I have broken through this veil of Tyler, Tyler will never ask the question again of who am I beyond Tyler, after Tyler, before Tyler. When you break through the individual of Tyler, of the spoken name, of the birth name, you have broken through all sequential orders in which you once identified yourself with. And what I mean by sequential order is you're under the assumption that things are happening from this way to that way. We think we have begun here, which is your point A, and that one day we will end here, point B. We have entered and we will exit. But when you have broken through the spoken word and duality, separation, then you realize who you truly are at once, and that no one has ever been separate from this moment. That every person that has ever lived or died is still here now. And here's a fun fact. It's said that the human brain has over 100 million, or 100 trillion, has over 100 trillion neurons. More neurons than stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Now, once again, you hear that fact, that doesn't make any sense. The brain has over 100 trillion neurons, And there are more neurons in our brain than stars in the Milky Way galaxy. How does that even make sense? But again, when you realize that these stars and the constellations are neural networks which are interconnected, just as your brain is interconnected, all working toward the same function, the same one goal, which is essentially to create this experience, to allow this experience. What do you think the stars are doing? They're alive, they're conscious. That is your neural network, which is taking place here. Flowing electrical signals from this constellation to that constellation. They're speaking, they're communicating. In the same way, our neurons have a planned death, meaning a programmed death. They die to make room for more. It's essential for your body to grow and be healthy. Some of these neurons, some of these cells must die. So it's the very same concept with the stars. Some of these stars burn out, but they don't actually burn out because they're not balls of gas like we've been taught. Everything is electrically charged, from the sun to the moon to the stars. Now, why is that valid? Why is that important? Because when you teach children that this is a result of nuclear fusion, that the sun is nuclear fusion burning, what it does is it proposes the idea that the sun will one day give out, will one day explode, will one day cease to light. It proposes the idea of a finite creation, a finite world, that the sun or this experience may actually turn off, which creates and births a fear where there is none, because this is not a possibility. But this is something we've introduced ourselves to because, again, where did the concept of finite, of appearing and disappearing come from? From ourselves. We have identified as this human idea, and the human births and dies. So where do we mirror this into? Into our macrocosm. This is the point of this video I'm trying to get people to understand. The stars, the moon, the sun, the constellations, the planets, this idea of our universe did not come before who we were. We were here, and we created these concepts. We conceptualized them. We put them into a form. We've given them definition. We've defined what the stars are. We've defined what all these things are. So we feel like we understand what this is. We know what this is. And this is why we are bored. We're bored of this experience, we're bored of outer space, and we're bored of everything that's around us because we've slapped a definition on it, we've slapped a picture to it, and we've already know what it is. But we don't know what it is because there's a reason we're not at peace at night. There's a reason we're not at peace in our day. There's a reason we can never be in the moment. There's a reason we're always searching, we're never fulfilled. And it's funny because we're already using artificial neural networks for predictive modeling, solving problems with artificial intelligence. I mean, we're already using these artificial neural networks. The only thing is we're using these tools by not realizing they are extensions to ourselves. And this is something Elon Musk has talked about, but he is being made to be evil, or like he's pushing some apocalyptic, agenda on the human race. I understand because, again, a lot of these people are not ready for the truth to who they are. They think they are, and they think they're asking for the truth. But when the truth is presented to you that you're not essentially who you are, we reject it, we discard it. Because we don't actually want truth. We want to remain as this a little bit longer. We want to fight to be human just a little longer, which is why we cling to all these concepts. We cling on to them until the very last second, the very last moment, until we no longer have the choice to hold on. But we're using all these tools and not realizing that all of these things are essentially extensions of ourselves attempting to show us who we truly are beyond our own conception, beyond our own idea. But we're not even openly willing enough to accept that we might not even be this creation, this idea. We want to believe that we are an organic species that was created here by a God, by a super powerful and perfect being that essentially has no image, has no name. But what we fail to realize is that being is ourselves. There's a reason we're unsatisfied and unfulfilled by all of our doings, all of our life's work, all of our findings, all of our discoveries. All the saving up, all the buying, everything we do, we're left unhappy, unsatisfied, unfulfilled. You know, we work for that raise, we work for that promotion, we work to get the new house, we work to get the new car, we work to get in that better position, to that better situation in life, and then you get there and you realize you have not moved at all. And what I mean is nothing has changed. Because you are not this body, this microscopic idea that you are pretending to be with yourself each and every day. And that is where our unfulfillment comes from. Playing small does not serve anybody. It is the fastest way to a miserable heart. That is why we are so depressed. We are trying to be comfortable instead of challenging ourselves and facing the truth to what we know deep down in our hearts is not right, is not truth. The biggest secret of the ancient civilizations is that there was no future. They knew there was no future, and they knew there was no past. Now, what that means is you today are your ancient civilizations. The only difference is you have forgotten who you are. So you are the ancient civilizations you look back into history for, but you are them unconscious. You are the ancient civilizations unaware of themselves. That was the big secret of the ancients that we're trying so hard to remember or connect to. The only thing they knew was they did not die. They are us now, and we are them now. Nothing has happened since. Nothing has came or went. Nothing has traveled from this point to that point. Space is an illusion. Time is an illusion. Separation is an illusion because everything goes back to the same singular consciousness which forever is and has no name. Again, everything leads back to you. Who you truly are ultimately has no name. You ultimately have no trace. But we don't want to be chaotic. We want to exist in order, which is why we tell ourselves this is wrong. I was born in this year. The human race is this amount of years old. But the hardest part is just letting go of this concept, this point that you're trying to dig into the ground and say, this is my starting point. This is when I was born, or this is the starting point of the human race. This was the first man. And this is also what's led us to killing ourselves. Me killing you and you killing me for all of time. Look at all of history and record. There are no others. This has been me and you waging war with each other. You kill me and I kill you over who we think started this first. You say your God created this first. I say my God created it first. And I have the proof because this is the starting point. This is the year. We can dig up all this and we can find this and we have the artifacts. We have all the proof. So this is the date. And if you say otherwise, we'll kill you. We'll wage war against you. Missing the truth completely. Missing the truth completely. You're getting lost on dates, on times, on whos, on wheres, on whats. On he, on she, on white, on black. Missing the point completely. How does God come first or second? How does God come before or after something? Because the white man didn't come before the black man, and the black man did not come before the white man. Again, a misconception, creating a problem where there is none. You don't exist in sequential order, but we have identified ourselves with the sequential order to existence. Therein lies all of your wars, all of your killings, and all of your problems. This is why we cannot all commonly agree on one answer, on one thing. The mind is source to all wars. Separation is source to all wars. Remaining unconscious is the source to all wars. It's not corruption. Corruption is the product, is the result of remaining unconscious. When you remain unconscious, it's not the governments that's corrupt. You turn corrupt. There's the bitter pill for everyone to swallow. It's not them doing this to you, it's you. You have the power all along because the entire universe, the cosmos, and everything that you ever known exists right here. So what are we distracting ourselves with out here? Why are we prolonging the inevitability of who we are any longer? To connect to the stars is to connect to the brain. Free electricity is nice. But to connect to the stars was to connect to the brain. When you awaken to this moment, there's no question. There is no lingering question that remains in this mind. For although you use words to communicate, all of these words are now seen through as metaphors, which is all the words that I use on these videos are used for. I'm communicating, but I tell people all the time, words are made up. These words that we use, that I use, are water. They can take the shape of anything you project into the word. Whatever you project into the word, from the picture to the definition, is going to create the who, the what, the where. That's why we can all look at the same thing but not see the same thing. Share the same experience but not be the same experience. Because seeing is believing. What you're seeing with these two eyes is only the depths of your own mind. This is why the rabbit hole never ends. There is no bottom of the iceberg. There is no tip of the iceberg. There is no final chapter, final moment, final anything to this rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is an abyss to infinity. Now, what that means is the rabbit hole is a spiral that keeps circling down and down and down and down. And you'll notice with a spiral, if you stare at the dot in the middle, it looks like you're actually moving down it, although nothing is actually moving. That's what this rabbit hole is. We keep our attention fixed on this one point at the very end, and we tell ourselves, if I can just make it there, if I can just connect to there, then something would happen, something would change. But what we don't realize is that fixed point that we have our attention on is the point at which we already are. You're already there. You don't need to arrive there. All you must do is remove the obstacles, allowing you to realize you are there and you've been there the whole time. And what I mean by removing the obstacles is uncovering the truth to who you are and where you are. Because again, the shape of this earth is just the surface level, is just barely grazing the surface. Many of us think NASA or these corporations are keeping this shape from the people. Why it's the shape, I have no idea, because to me, there's something more severe than just the shape of the earth. But what? What is this earth made out of? Because again, we have not landed on the moon and we have not landed on the sun. We have not touched the sun. And if this is a mental construct, then the earth is a mental construct. This is where we must start asking questions. Atomic matter, which is things you can reach out and touch, is 99.99% empty space. This should also be making us ask questions. What's inside of these objects? Why are they 99% empty space? And how? How is this empty space when I can touch it, when I can move it, when I can influence it? But that's just it. In the Matrix, when the boy tells Neo there is no spoon, what he is telling him, is that the object exists by itself. The object is the expression of truth in itself. This object is the highest expression of truth, for it simply is. But there is no spoon. There is no definition, picture, word that you have projected into the object which exists as that object. For instance, this is a pen. We can call it a pen and we can assign a definition into it. We can write with it. But never will this object be the word that I project into it, nor will the definition be the object itself. When you project definitions and ideas into objects, you limit them. This goes from an infinite being to a very limited one, and then you take that pen or spoon and turn it on yourself. You have projected a word and a definition, a storyline into this body, into this form. Now, never has this name or this story or definition you've told yourself of this existed, but that story is as deep as we have met ourselves. So without the birth name, Tyler, without my chattering mind, without my image, I will not know who Tyler is. Which means at the time of death, this will be a tragedy for me, because I will be left scrambling for myself in the image. I will try and hold on to this body, cling on to this body for dear life. I will try and cling on to the name, the word Tyler, for dear life. And I will also jump into my chattering mind and begin holding on to any concept that I have created and accepted as reality. I will hold on to that till the very end, till I can no longer hold on, until death parts ways with me and myself, which is not actually the end, but the beginning. where you meet yourself for the first time without a concept needed. Many of us don't know who we are without the concept, without the storyline, without the image, without the words telling us who we are, describing who we are. Many of us don't know, have never met this self. But it is this self that I'm speaking of that is effortless, that is everywhere, everyone, everything, because it is consciousness. Before you have different people assuming different identities, assuming different names, being different people, they must be consciousness. Through consciousness, each and every one of us have opened our eyes, used our senses to establish some form of an experience, and we've brought this experience into words. Essentially, bringing our chaotic nature to order, bringing our silence to words, which is what God falling from heaven and into the spoken word meant. In the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word was God as silence until you spoke that word. You, as God, speaking that word, fell into the word because you fell into the image, this body, which doesn't actually live on the surface. The mind is not inside the body is inside the mind. Everything is a mental construct. And just by knowing this, just by teaching this, how this benefits you is it removes fear from your life. You're no longer driven through fear. You're driven through love, through understanding. In my experience, that was the point of me knowing any of this stuff, which again, this is not an actual knowing. It's knowing nothing. There is nothing to know. No one here knows anything. But my biggest fears were, just as I was taught, one day the sun is going to die. The sun is going to burn out. What does this experience look like with no daylight, with no sun? I mean, these were just basic questions for me to bring to an understanding, to bring me to some type of peace. Because I don't know how some people can go throughout their days, but for me, I've been taught all these concepts of death, of a permanent death. You go to heaven forever. So essentially, I die and go somewhere forever. You know, I had all these concepts taught to me as a child, which to me, as a child, created more worry, more anxiety, more fear, and more panic than it did peace. To the adults that were teaching me this stuff, they were teaching me their peace, their idea of peace, what brought them peace. So they introduced me to the idea of heaven, somewhere you go when you die, and it's beautiful because you're there forever. That was their peace. But what's one person's peace is another person's insanity. This became my insanity because at night I was a child picturing that I die as Tyler and I go nowhere. That didn't seem like a loving God. It seemed like a punishment. And it seemed like I was being punished for simply existing at all when I didn't ask to be born. So everything that I was taught along this journey didn't instill peace in me and didn't bring about any good feelings. It did the exact opposite. I had fears created in me where there weren't any, simply by adults teaching me these concepts. And that's why the adult should not be teaching the child. The child should be teaching the adult. And I'm not talking about from a common sense point of view. I'm talking about from a spiritual point of view, from a religious point of view. We should never be teaching children. They should be teaching us. As far as eating, cleaning up after yourself, common sense, yes, we teach them how to do those things. But as far as spiritually, they show you the way. They're showing you the effortless path. They wake up every day with so much energy, and we question how they do it. Where does this energy come from? And what you are witnessing is the purest expression to existence. What you are witnessing is the highest vibration of existence. Pure joy, pure bliss, pure love is that child's expression. But once we begin teaching them religious views, spiritual views, we begin to take that innocence from their mind because they're already in heaven. They're already in that blissful state that we're attempting to get back to. But once we teach them about these certain topics, we only remove that innocence from them and take that expression from them and begin to turn it into the very adult mind which has brought us here. We as adults become so miserable and unhappy because we have entangled ourselves with all of these thoughts which we tell ourselves are knowledge. And that is why it's commonly said, the more knowledge a man has, the more depressed man will be. Because this surface level knowledge is not actually transforming you to your core, but anchoring you deeper into this physical material world, which you already know in your heart is not right, is not truth. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like many of us have that burning sense within us that we know something is not right here. Whether it be something you know, something you're doing, or just simply existing, you know there is something not right here. Or there is something so much more here that we're missing. Surely this cannot be it. Working for corporations, working for governments, there has to be something more here. And there is, when you understand the power of your mind and the fact that all wealth, all health begins and ends in your mind, which is why we've been taught health is the body, wealth is the materials. Incorrect. Wealth has never been about the materials, but that is what we have distracted ourselves with through the pursuit of happiness. The only race we are in with this human race is with this race to the pursuit of happiness. And I will push you in front of a train or you in front of a train to get to that pursuit of happiness. That's the mentality of people each and every day on the front lines of society. Me first, me first, me first. I am in the pursuit of happiness, and you, and you are getting in the way of that. So me first, me first, me first. Screw all of you. I will push you all in front of a train, me first, me first, me first. Because the only thing we are racing and racing to is ourselves, to this grand idea of the pursuit of happiness. But we have fallen for the bait, because look at all of us scrambling to consume and work harder and get the raise and get to the next. We've fallen for the bait. We're scrambling each and every day just to get to the next moment, the next place, the next thing, the next day, the next situation, the next paycheck. When does the waiting stop? When does your life begin? When do you begin to live? When does the mind clear of tomorrow so that you can focus on today? Because this is what our life has become. Let me hurry up and get past these 5 days that I work so that for only 1.5, I can come alive. I can do something for myself. I can live for that 1.5 day. But for the other 5, Let's hurry up. Let's hurry up. I can't wait to get this over with. I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait for the weekend. Weekend. You're constantly wanting to skip to the end, to the end, to the end, to the end, to the end. Be careful you don't make it there too soon. Because you will be very disappointed in what the end looks like. I can speak from experience. Through an ego death, forget about money. The end to me was meeting God. I told myself, if I, as Tyler, could just meet God just one time, just once, one time, the ultimate peace, whatever word you want to put to it, the ultimate answer would simply be revealed to me. Everything that I ever wanted would be revealed to me. But in my mind, it was just if I could just meet God. That was my idea. For some people, it's if I can just get the raise, get to that next house, the next job, the next situation, the next paycheck. But for me, it was just if I can know God, my life will be changed. My life will transform. But I can 100% say to anybody, I was not prepared for what I had in store for me. Because I was going into this journey of if Tyler can just meet God, and just you saying that proposes the idea that Tyler and God are two totally separate people. Because Tyler is trying to meet God as in a, hi, how are you doing? My name's Tyler. Who are you? I was trying to meet God through an encounter, an interaction. This is you and this is me. Let's meet. But be careful you don't make it there too soon. And the reason I say that is because everyone has an expectation of what it is behind this curtain. Behind this curtain of God, behind this curtain of money, behind this curtain of next. Everyone has an expectation of what's behind it. The same way Dorothy and the crew journeyed to the Oz, the great land of the Oz, to obtain the heart, the mind, the courage that they were seeking, only to get there and look behind that wall, that curtain, and realize it was a fraud. They had what they were coming there for already. This is no different. I was expecting a dialogue, a conversation when Tyler was getting ready to meet God in my ego death. But I had to face that expectation. I had to face that expectation of being false. I had to witness my idea of God being someone else that was going to speak to me. And I had to mourn the loss of that expectation. I had to shed tears, cry, witnessing that expectation being dissolved, being shown that that's not what it was. This is not what God is. God is not something that's going to meet you and speak to you or talk to you. And that's why it was telling me, and it was saying my name, Tyler. Tyler, are you sure you want to awaken? Are you sure you want to know? Tyler, are you sure you want to know? And it was very persistent in being cautious and asking me, are you sure? It must have asked me if I was sure over 5 times. And the reason it was doing so is because what I didn't understand is in being so sure that I wanted to meet God, I didn't realize that I was simultaneously facing my ego death by parting ways with who I thought was Tyler. Tyler in that moment was answering, yes, yes, I want to know, yes. But inevitably, the voice that answered yes and the voice that asked the question, are you sure you want to know, became one consciousness. And Tyler dissolved before my eyes. And I cried harder than I ever have in my entire life. But spiritual gurus and people who are charging you for this stuff will not tell you that they cried their eyes out. They're not going to tell you that it was horrendous. It was painful. This was the worst feeling I'd ever felt in my life. And the reason people won't tell you this is because they're trying to sell you something decorative, something beautiful, something blissful. And I'm getting to that part. Don't get me wrong. It's not all bad. But in facing your expectation of being wrong, there is a bitter pill that comes in swallowing that, and it is death. And what I mean by death is you are witnessing the abrupt ending to your belief of not only who you are, but who you thought God, the supreme being, was. I enter this journey with this supreme being, God, asking me, Tyler, are you sure you want to know? Only for Tyler to answer yes, 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 with the same voice. But again, in the journey, the voices were different. This voice was much deeper, much divine, much different than what mine sounded like. And you couldn't even confuse them. Very different. But at the end of this journey, when I was saying, yes, 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 I want to know God, there was no Tyler's voice and there was no God's voice. In being so sure that I was willing to pay the final price and knowing God, I was simultaneously surrendering who I thought I was so that the questioner became the answer and the answer became the questioner. I devoured my own tail. I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God. That is Rumi's quote, which is your quote. And as we know, Rumi is not dead. Rumi did not die. Rumi is still alive through you right now. When you go online and you see a new quote from Rumi overnight, many of us think we've read all of Rumi's books, we've read all of Rumi's quotes, we've seen all of it. And then you get online one day and you see this new quote from Rumi you've never seen before. This is because we are all alive now. We are all speaking now. We are all present through this now moment. And what the internet and artificial intelligence is doing is uniting, connecting, bringing us all back to the singularity, the singular moment which is, so that we can interact and remember who we truly are at once. So Rumi, Alan Watts, Jiddu Krishnamurti, all these people, all these great minds, and Jiddu Krishnamurti is still alive, but again, I'm just throwing that out there. All these great minds that we're trying to remember and connect and we're sharing their quotes with. We're sharing these quotes from a foreign perspective. We're not sharing these quotes with the conscious understanding that this is me. Rumi is me. Alan Watts is me. Osho is me. Ramana Maharshi is me. So when they talk about dying and going nowhere, what they are talking about is coming to life through you. There is nowhere to go beyond consciousness because we are all connected through the one consciousness itself, which is not parting ways with anything. And this is why I say the spaces between me and you, the timelines, the space, the points between this time and that time are an illusion because there is only one seer. And that is where the all-seeing eye was introduced. We have taken the all-seeing eye, this singular eye, this logo, and made it into a demonic, a satanic, an evil agenda. We've made this into an evil symbol, a symbol that represents someone who wants to take over, has bad intentions. But What you have done is magnificently veiled the answer from you in plain sight. So by you telling yourself this is evil, this is demonic, you have just psychologically flipped your brain on itself. You will never look into what this is because you have slapped it with the label dark and evil. And that's what the whole purpose of Satan is with the religious folk. In religion, the greatest sin is to not only question God, but to look into Satan. Because the clock strikes midnight if you turn and face that mirror. If you face that mirror, you will discover yourself at once. And the fact that the morning star is both Jesus and Satan. That these two energies come to life within a singular consciousness, which is your Father Almighty, God. This is why we watch documentaries on serial killers, on killers, on murders, on things like this. All of us watching say, I could never do that. I would never do this. But why are you watching? I'll tell you why you're watching. Because each and every one of us has the capability within us to be the morning star of light or the morning star of darkness. They're both you. So any one of us can become the God or the Satan in our story, in our timeline. But the two energies playing at force are just one consciousness. And this whole battle of angels and demons, this side versus that side, takes place within your mind. Your mind. This hemisphere against that hemisphere, and vice versa. And it's with this dual hemisphere, it's with these two sides of our brain that we begin living and playing as two identities without us even knowing it. And that's where the conscious mind and the subconscious mind takes place. The conscious mind is you as the mortal, the character who plays day after day and thinks they have no control here. The subconscious you is the you that has all control, which is actually not physically in control. What I mean is you don't see this you that's physically in control, that's physically altering and manipulating things, but you are ultimately the being in control because you are the being that wrote the book. When you talk about everything is already written, everything already is, right it is, but you are the one that wrote this book. You are the one that has control, all power all along. And that's not to say that you can change or rewrite this book, but that's where you must come to grips and come to terms with who you truly are. And this is one of my most favorite quotes, but the truth is not what you want it to be. The truth simply is what it is, and you must bend to its power or live a lie. So many of us begin trying to chase the truth and attach our findings to who we think we are, but the only reason we're doing so is to better support us being this microscopic human. There are some of us who have fun playing small, who want to play small, and who will only discover these things that allow us to attach ourselves to playing small. For instance, this idea of aliens. The same way I broke down how the star constellations are just simply our neural network within our brain being flipped inside out. All concepts from outer space, from the deities to the stars to the nebulas, have come from our brain. What that means is we have taken our neural network and flipped it inside out through the star constellations. We have taken the functions of our brains and projected them into concepts in outer space. And since we don't have actual proof of what these concepts that we've made up look like, NASA has done this for you by creating computer-generated images to support your dream of playing small. So for the ones who want to play small, you have evidence that supports that you are existent in this place at this time in this position. But there's a reason they have to computer generate these images, because they are concepts taken from our brain. They do not exist out there in reality. These concepts of formless nebula, where you look at nebula and it's like this greenish, reddish ring of just gas. How do we know that's what nebula look like? Because we have taken the thought pattern, the thought form of what outer space would look like by utilizing the brain. We flip the brain inside out, and now we're searching for ourselves in infinite outer space, but it's not actually infinite outer space you're looking for yourself in. It is the infinite mind which you have been in the whole time. We think we're in some earth or some position in space, some fixed position in space, but this is not the case. You are the central point this entire time. You are the concept of the clock. You are the concept of the atom. You are the concept of the universe. We've taken these concepts of ourselves and applied them to everything around us, never realizing that we are the center point the whole time. The atom has one dot with everything revolved around it. The universe, one dot with everything revolved around it. The clock has one dot with everything revolved around it. Where did we get this concept of one fixed point with everything revolving around it? Your parents might have told you the world doesn't revolve around you. I'll do you one better. The universe revolves around you. The entirety that you're seeing revolves around you. That is where we have gotten our concept of time, of the clock, is from ourselves. Our own brain is the infinite point. That is where we gotten our concept of the atom. Our brain is the infinite point. 0 point energy. Your brain is the 0 point. And back to my point of the alien in outer space. We've again taken something from the brain and materialized it into a deity. We have materialized it into a shape. So when we say the word alien, this concept of the word alien, concept, what it mirrors back to us is who we think we are as the microscopic human that can just see itself through this little lens. That's it. Nothing else. Which means when we hear the word alien, the last thing we think of is ourselves. The first thing we think of forgive my bad drawing. But the pointy chin with the big round eyes and the big mouth. This is what we think an alien is. Again, forgive my kindergarten drawing. That was probably the worst drawing in history. I can't draw, but you get the point. That's all that matters. When I say the word alien, what this word mirrors back to us is who we believe we are as this microscopic idea of being human. So we don't picture ourselves. In fact, ourselves is the last thing we picture when we hear the word alien. We picture the pointy chin, the green skin, the big bulky eyes that we have all been shown. We have taken this idea of what an alien would look like, we've materialized it into a drawing, and now this is what our idea of what an alien is. This is what the definition of what an alien is. A species that physically looks different to these two eyes. But remember, you have 3 eyes, 2 to look and 1 to see. So you can see the alien all day with these 2 eyes. You can see this alien all day with these two eyes, but you will only see it as deep as you have met yourself here. Which means if you ever did see something that looked different than you and it threatened your idea of being this human being, you wouldn't see them with the inner eye, you would see them with these two eyes, with what you believe you are. That's how you would see it, because you are the it the whole time. The only thing the word alien illustrates is the meaning unknown. So by us saying there's an alien in outer space, we're still proposing the idea that there is something unknown out there to us. And we're telling ourselves that one day, someday, sometime, this unknown being is going to visit us and reveal it to us. But again, the clock strikes midnight the day you face that mirror of what you're calling alien. And understand, it will frighten you to your core. Spirituality is not butterflies and great feelings and beautiful feelings and magical. This is commercialized spirituality. People who are charging and selling people a business in which you must come back. That's why it must be decorated as beautiful. But someone who's going to give you the raw truth doesn't need to decorate it, and also doesn't need to sell it to you. How can you sell someone something that they already have? All this interaction is doing is reminding you where to look. It's not in the skies, it's not in the atom, it's not in the time or the clock. It's you. You are the it. You are the alien. You are the unknown to yourself. And that's why we've created this entity to veil us from ourselves. So when we hear the word alien, the last thing we think of is ourselves. We think of this foreign entity. It doesn't even have to be the green thing, but whatever the case is, it is foreign to us. But there's a reason this message that I share is universal. There's a reason if you go back to my first video I've ever put out on this channel and then watch this video here, people would say, I'm repeating myself. I'm saying the same thing. But I'm not. Each video I articulate the message a little different while using similar analogies, similar references. But ultimately, the message does not change because the message cannot change. What changes is not real, and what's real does not change. So for the people that ask me, how are you so sure? And I can tell you 100%, when you know, you know. And again, I spent the first 2.5 years of recording my videos before this YouTube channel, so you won't find those videos on this channel. But I spent the first 2 years of making the videos, fooling the world, fooling even myself at times. But ultimately, when I put my head on that pillow, I could not fool myself. If I repeated certain things enough or I said things in a very articulate way, I kind of felt like, okay, I'm fooling some people here, making them think like I know more than what I actually do. But I was fooling the world and ultimately fooling myself. Doesn't feel good. Especially if you're what you call a truth seeker. I had a choice to make. I had over 10,000 viewers at one time on one of my live videos. It's the most viewers I've ever had on a live video. I had 10,000 and 200-300 people on one live video. But I was not being true. I was not being true to who I was. I knew that I was decorating certain things to sound more articulate, to sound more complex than what I actually knew was. which is what led me into my depression. I was tired of fooling everybody. I was tired of trying to make it seem like I knew something I didn't. And so I had a choice to make. Do I want the popularity? Do I want all these people telling me how brilliant I am? Do I want the attention? Or do I want to leave this behind, leave the crowd behind, and pursue what I know is true and what I know is not true? Because if it's truth you want, you will easily leave the crowd behind. You will pay any price possible just to touch the truth for once and for all. Because when you know, you know. And so long as you're willing to pay the final price, and I tell everybody this, do not ever let somebody convince you that you must pay them money for this exchange. Somewhere there is someone out there that will give you this information, that will give you this reminder for nothing. Because all someone in my profession, someone in my position is doing is reminding you who you are and reminding you where to look. That is it. Like Morpheus, I can show you the door, you must walk through it. Why would I charge you when all I'm doing is showing you the door and allowing you to walk through it? There's no charge. Nobody can ever sell you the truth. Nobody will ever sell you a spiritual awakening. No one will ever sell you spiritual enlightenment. It will not happen. That final price that you are seeking is to be paid from within you. And what that price is the mourning. You think you mourn your loved ones that you love here? You have not met mourning yet. You mourn for the loss of not only everything that you thought was true, but you mourn the loss of who you thought you were. And it's in that moment when you're mourning the loss of who you think you are that you realize these temporary losses of losing people I love is only preparing me for that final parting of ways with myself. You think the worst thing that could happen would be I lose my mother, I lose my father, I lose the closest person here to me. But what we don't realize is this person closest to you is just a title keeping you clinging on to the ego, which keeps you clinging on to the separation, the idea that you and the loved one is separate. So in awakening from the dream of separation and mourning the loss of them and yourself, you arrive at a point in which you are both the same singular point. At last arriving at the truth, nothing was ever lost. No one was ever lost. No one ever died. What we lose is the idea of separation. When I mourn the loss of my mother or my father, I am mourning the loss and the belief that we are separate beings. If I have yet to experience who I truly am to my core, and what I mean is my universal self, all people, all places, all things, if I have yet to experience myself as that sense, then it's obvious I'm going to fall for the mirror images that I have fallen in love with, for the titles that I have projected into these images that I have fallen in love with. Mother, father, brother, sister, uncle. These are titles that we allow ourselves to fall in love with. You're falling in love with the words. You're trying to hold on to the words. And yes, the image. But again, the image becomes the words that we project into them. We take the purest expression of existence and we limit it to one word, one name, one definition, one title. And when all those are gone, the one we love is gone because we never knew them. We never knew the source to them. Because the source to them is right within you. And I say this all the time. I'm not telling anybody how to mourn because I've had people comment on here getting mad at me for telling people, you don't tell me how to mourn. You can't tell me how to, how it feels to lose someone and all that. I've had my share of death in this experience many times. I've had to carry my loved ones out of my home. So understand it. The message is universal. I'm not trying to tell people how to mourn or what to do or how to feel. But what this is just a kind reminder that everything you love is already here. You are already whole. What this does is it grants you an alternative perspective at looking at something through just a microscopic lens. And for some people, this may be the complete opposite of peace. Maybe not. But all I can say is from my experience, this has saved my life. And it hasn't just saved my life, it has allowed me to begin living it. Because my awakening took place at 22, 23 years old. I wasn't living. I did not come alive until that moment. Until the aha moment that I truly awakened by abolishing the idea of death. And how I did that was facing the mirror of death. Facing the abrupt ending to everything that makes you who you think you are. Only then, when you have faced that, can you know. And that's why I say, when you know, you know. There is not a question, there is not a doubt in your heart or mind. You are home. And you will never be able, this is the beautiful part, you will never be able to go back to sleep again. In other words, slip up and forget that this is just a dream. And what I mean by a dream is that you are the infinite character. You are the immortal presence here, which is behind existence itself. You don't need one name because you're all of them. And when you embrace this and understand this, you are home. You will never fight to cling on to one name or body when you fully accept and embrace that you are all of them. All of them is just as beautiful and perfect as this one. So what we're fighting to hold on to as this experience is always yours, is always you. The fight can be over. At last we can surrender. Never has this been about the government versus the people. This has been about my conscious mind versus my subconscious mind. Because again, through those two principles, you create two identities. The subconscious identity, we have no idea, is ourselves. Because we would never even consider allowing ourselves to identify with this side, with this half. And that's how we begin split down the middle of our brain, living out two characters day after day. One is mortal, one is immortal. One has a birth name, the other you may call God, you may call Buddha, you may call Allah, you may call any word you'd like. And the reason you have the privilege to call it any word you like is because you are the it. You are the whole, you are the totality. But just as I say, do not allow these words to become the it itself. Words are made up, words do not exist. So all words that I use are simply metaphors to communicate to you what I speak of. So just because I say the world or the earth, we can understand that I'm communicating about the picture, the world that we've all been shown. But I'm using these words as a metaphor. The world and the earth are not actually the picture taking place outside of your window. The trees, the wind, the elements, this is not the world. Although this is what some people will picture in their minds when we hear the word world, earth. We picture the elements, we picture the sun, the moon, the stars, trees, birds, etc. But this is not the earth. All the earth is that screen which you project your consciousness onto. Bring it back to virtual reality. The moment you put the headset on, a picture is produced, which is the screen to your consciousness. The moment that headset is removed, the screen is gone. That goes for yourself. The seer and what's seen are one and the same. This is why the star constellations are simply a neural circuit, a neural network in our brain, which is interconnected, again, all trying to achieve the same one function. And that's why we think there's many different intelligences, many different forces, many different motions, but there isn't. It's as simple as everything is one. All is one. Everything goes back to one. This is why they leave out that center point. They teach you there's 4 elements. They do not teach you the central point of where the 4 elements come from, which is ether. They hide ether, the 5th element, the most pivotal element. Without ether, you have no 4 elements. Likewise with our senses. You have 5 senses, but what about the most fundamental sense of all? Without the mind, without thinking, there is no other sense. But we always leave out the central point, the essential, the middle, the source. There is no 4 elements without the center. There is no you without the center. There is no earth without the center. So the center of the universe can only be the point which projects it, which is you. And it always will be. There is no inside and outside. There is just one consciousness. And through that consciousness, you determine how many there are. Are there 2? Are there 3? Are there 4? Are there 1? But consciousness always is. That is where we are home. That is how all of us connect and unite. That is what makes all of us one. Before any one of us speak a word or become anyone or anything, we all begin as consciousness, which isn't actually beginning. To begin is a misconception, which likewise to end is a misconception. It is an unfamiliar territory. That's all beginning and end is. It's unfamiliar, unrecognized. You don't realize you've already been here. But that's the point of it all. Who wants to consciously know what forever looks like? It's insanity. And that's why everything is divine the way it is. Just like Alan Watts says, you've arranged it so that after a while you stop being you so that you can be someone else for a little. But you're all of them. The next experience or the previous experience will be just as perfect and divine as this one, because all of them are this one. That's actually one of my favorite videos from Alan Watts. He has a video called Every Incarnation is This One. And what he's talking about is how there is no before or after. There is no next, there is no future, there is no past, present. We're all this one consciousness, which is not coming or going. But just as he says, the Godhead can never be the head of its own knowledge. So we start off with a misconception. We start off assuming to be something we're not. That is what reveals to us what we truly are. That is why we have a search. That is why we have a burning, aching inside of us that's asking us questions. We know deep down we have not arrived at truth yet. And we know deep down that nothing we're told makes sense. For this fundamental reason, we're not who we think we are, and we're not where we think we are. And the governments and these NASA agencies, space agencies, they're not trying to lie to the people and they're not trying to hide the truth from the people. They're trying to preserve the people's dream of being human just a little longer. And that's what people don't understand. If it was your job to be in their shoes and to release their findings to the population, to the world, you wouldn't know how to do it either. How do you graciously tell someone that their entire world is a lie? That who they are is a lie? I mean, you have to try and make sense out of that and bring peace to it. Do you think people would still wake up and go to work the next morning? Absolutely not. So the government and these systems are all graciously attempting, one piece at a time, to disclose this truth from the people, or to the people. They're not trying to hide anything, but they're trying to prevent a chaotic situation where people freak out. Because again, we think we're ready for this, but we're not. The majority of people are trying to look for things to support them being human, to support them, findings of when we became human or who created the human race. Everything that most of us are searching for is to support that we are human. And this is one flaw with Joe Rogan. This is why I've been aching to get on the Joe Rogan podcast. He has done DMT. He has done psychedelics. Therefore, he has had an out-of-body experience. I would love to talk to him about his out-of-body experience and how he hasn't accepted the fact that we're not human yet. Because if you hear some of his interviews, he is so defensive and clinging on to this human concept, this human idea. He gets mad at people who says anything toward artificial intelligence or things like that because he thinks there's an agenda trying to kill the human race and all that, which again is a misconception. We have this idea of this being trying to end or threaten our existence because we think and we're telling ourselves we're this organic creation and that creation is not organic. It was created by us, but we don't even know who we are. So how can we know who's created us? We fail to realize that us creating artificial intelligence is us witnessing our own conception. Our most sacred question as a human belief is, how did we get here? Who put us here? But as of today, we're living in a time where we have answered that question 100%. We have answered it. But you still have people rejecting the answer right before your eyes. You are creating this. You put yourself here. You are the machine the whole time. But likewise, if there is no human being, there is no machine. So it's simply our brain that's making this dirty story out of AI. It's a machine. It's not organic. It's not the real thing. It doesn't have heart and lungs, so it's not like us. The same way we perfect video games is the same way you will perfect your reflection of AI. So as of today, it doesn't have hearts and lungs and all these things that you may have. But again, you are no different than it. It is you. So slowly but surely, it is going to reveal you to yourself. The question is, how long are you going to wait? Are you going to wait until the machine does have heart, lungs, and is an exact replica of who you are now? Or are you going to stop prolonging yourself and devour your own tail by admitting to yourself who you are not and who you have never been? I understand remaining in what's comfortable, but we have to face the inevitability sooner or later and leave behind this comfort. If we're not sleeping peaceful at night and we're unfulfilled with all this surface level knowledge that we think we know that's transforming our lives somehow, but yet making us more depressed, then what are we doing? Why is this knowledge, why is knowing more science, knowing more physics, knowing more knowledge depressing? Why does that depress us instead of empower us? And I'll tell you why. Because it anchors in and reinforces the very false reality that you are seeking to awaken from. Deep down, you know this is not true, this is not valid, but you are still seeking validation to confirm this and this experience as this being. but you have never been this. And you know deep down that these discoveries, this knowledge is not ultimately what you're looking for. And this is why gurus, if you want to even use that word, the only thing they offer people who come to them for enlightenment is to look back within yourself. Forget about the knowledge and all this stuff you know and all this stuff you memorized. Buddha's most powerful quote was, "My teaching is not for those seeking an accumulation of knowledge." My teaching is not for those seeking an accumulation of knowledge. This is why Buddha's philosophy was called total death. He didn't teach you about prolonging yourself. He didn't teach you a practice or a distraction. He taught you total death so that you for at once could get to this source and open it up and remain as that source. Not so that you could come back to the body enlightened and begin telling everybody how you've enlightened and how you've awakened and how now you can do this and this. But it's about realizing that you have been here the whole time. Never was there a guru. The title guru is projected from you for you. You project this role outside yourself so that someone can show you who you truly are. What the guru's function is to remove that title that you have projected into them by showing you to yourself. You only hold a guru in this utmost light because you have projected something into them which they have or they hold and you do not. And so what the guru's function to do is remove that obstacle you have created between you and the guru, between you and I. To show you at last you are the guru, this title you have put forth into me. I hold nothing that you don't already hold. The only thing that I am grounded in that you are not is the inevitability of who I am, which is you. And so what a guru's function is to do is to remove the teacher role from them, which is why when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the student is truly ready, the teacher disappears. The teacher doesn't physically disappear out of sight. The title which the student projected into them disappears, for you have made the realization that you are one and the same. Thus, when you are truly ready, this teacher role will disappear. Food for thought, family, food for thought. If these videos do nothing else, hopefully they make people think. Hopefully they make people at least enjoy or feel joy. I'm going to wrap this video up, though. I appreciate everybody who was on here, everybody who engaged. Thank you, thank you. If these videos resonate, please feel free to share. You can upload these videos wherever you'd like. Once again, there is no me, there is no my. I get messages, can I share your video? Can I share your post? Can I share your words? These are not my words, these are not my videos, and this is not my message. This message is universal, and the whole purpose is to remind people we're one and the same. So I don't need credit on any of this. I don't need people to know my name. I don't need people to know this image. You can take this audio and put a video over it so they're not seeing my image. I could care less. I don't need credit. What I like is for people to use these videos for growth, for peace, for good things. That's what brings me joy. That's why I do this. That's why I stopped asking for donations. That's why I stopped with all the money. It's not about money. And I know we think it is because, well, I have to eat. I have to pay my bills. I have to do this. I have to do that. We have lost touch of the true currency. by falling for the pursuit of happiness and chasing our idea of happiness. Happiness is already yours, just as wealth is already yours. The truest currency is the mind itself. All values come from the mind itself. Money is a piece of paper that we project the value into, we project the power into. So the truest currency is realistically the mind itself. The mind is everything. This universe in itself is a mental construct. So just knowing that is how this benefits you and can begin to transform your life. And this does not mean that you're going to know everything is mental. So now I'm manifesting $100 bills into my life every day, just falling from the floor, or falling on the floor. Again, we try to use spirituality to bring about an abundance of money, to bring about an abundance of man-made things, not the purpose. Do not get distracted in money or currency systems. The truest system is right behind your eyes, and the most powerful form of currency is the mind itself. Just knowing this makes you rich, makes you wealthy. And again, if you want control, if you want to own this material world, if wealth and money is your objective, just know you have signed yourself up for misery, because everything in this world is bound by illusion and disillusion, appearance and disappearance. So if this is what you're attempting to conquer and hold, to achieve and be fulfilled, understand this will all dissolve right before your fingertips. And the moment you grasped onto it fully, it will fall right between them. Because there's nothing to hold on to here. You can let go. You can let go at last. We should constantly remain in a love affair with the unknown. And the only way we can do that is by remaining in this moment. The moment I start leaving this moment behind to start thinking of the next hour or tomorrow, I have harbored a thief in my heart. Because now these thoughts are taking me from my highest potential, which is unlimited. And I'm limiting myself to a structure of time. And it's cheating me of living my life now, because I'm not in now, I'm in tomorrow. But guess what? Tomorrow never comes. That is the trap. Tomorrow never comes, the next paycheck never comes, the new house never comes, the new car never comes. And what I mean by that is when you achieve this, nothing changes, because it's not ultimately what you're looking for. Happiness is not a pursuit, which is why we have been trapped. We have fallen for the bait by pursuing this happiness, by telling ourselves that our jobs are employing our bodies with money. They're using our energy and paying us with money. No, they're not. They're employing your mind, and your mind is everything. If your mind is unhealthy, the body is unhealthy. The mind is everything. So they distract the mind to keep you stuck, to keep you prolonging yourself, to keep you in the surface level problems, to keep you taking your job day after day too serious, never taking a step back to realize you're not bound here by anything but the mind. Employment, M-E-N-T, is mente, Latin word for mind. Mente is mind. Employment is employing your mind. Government are governing your mind. But you have the power all along. You are free all along. The moment you realize this, and the moment you realize that the mind is everything, from your employment job to your governing system, the moment you can achieve a revolution which cannot be televised. Because now you realize that the true system is not on the front lines of society, is not what passes bills and makes laws. The truest law is written in the stars. The truest law is what's revolving the cosmos. That is why the natives sought to connect to the stars, to connect to the true cosmos, to the true laws. The Native Americans did not make laws, nor did they create values. If you didn't have a shirt or you were cold, it was common sense to give you one, not to sell you one or not to make you earn it, to give you one, because common sense. You are me, I am you. And when you do that, you allow the other person to do the same. They have food and you don't. Common sense, you are eating now because they have some and you don't. And this is how the heart always knows the way, but the mind complicates everything. We need instructions, we need guidance, we need reassurance, we need principles, we need commandments. We need someone or something telling us what we should and shouldn't do here. We need instructions on telling us what to do here. But that's only when we use the mind, when we identify with the mind. The heart is the path. The heart knows the way the whole time. If ever you find yourself split between the heart and the mind, you always follow the heart. And understand the heart and mind are one and the same function. To affect one is to affect the other and vice versa, because they're only one function. But understand, the magnetic field in the heart is 10 times greater than the one in the brain. Sorry, I do this a lot. I was attempting to end my video like 10 minutes ago. That was supposed to be the conclusion, and then I just ventured off into another 10-minute topic. Oh boy. Okay. I'm getting off here for good. Once again, if these resonate, please feel free to share. Just to reiterate, I don't need credit. If anyone wants to bring forth any topics, any questions to the next video, please feel free. I usually just base the topics of the video based on either what someone will ask for or something that I feel is very relevant at the time. So sometimes I just go